Yeah, go ahead, you sicko. Sit there and tell me that Shinx isn't gonna get a Mega in this game. I bet next you're gonna sit there and tell me that a dead series like, oh, I don't know, Metroid or something is getting a brand new game next month. Yeah, right. Come on, guys. Think. Huh? What did you just say? Are you f***ing with me? Alright, what's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So obviously, today we're going to be talking a little bit more about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. We'll probably have a whole discussion on it later, but they've shown us a lot of what the game looks like currently and what we're most likely going to end up getting within the next couple of months. And quite honestly, I'm probably going to die on this hill, but I think that it looks worth the buy. If you don't think so, that's totally fine. Like I said, we'll definitely be having a discussion on it down the line. A lot of people were going around saying that they were really hoping to see some regional variants for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I thought was a little strange considering that this is just a remake. I didn't really see that one coming at all. But even so, we still ended up kind of getting that with Pokemon Legends, so I guess it's still kind of a win. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this personally, but to me, I found it a lot more interesting that there was no kind of announcements or anything of the sort regarding Mega Evolutions. Now, this is something that we've had an entire discussion on before, and we all agreed that it would be more beneficial for the games to have the mechanic of Mega Evolution. As of right now, the games are essentially around the corner, and I don't really get the feeling that we're gonna get another huge drop of announcements or news or anything like that on the games anytime soon, if at all. I mean, come on, it's only a couple of months away. Why would they drop even more information on the game? Although, actually, you could definitely argue that because that's 100% a Nintendo thing to do, so honestly, who's to say they won't, you know? Whatever the case may be, the games are getting close, so for this discussion, we're gonna move ahead with the assumption that we're not getting Mega Evolution. Is it a bad thing we don't have it, or after everything we've seen, do we not really need it all that bad after all? Let's discuss everything right now. So, first question, is it really a bad thing that we don't have it? So sit in here and think with me for a second, Chief. We have already discussed in length multiple times that Mega Evolution would be the only fitting mechanic for this remake. We also kind of figured, hey, they did it for 3rd gen, and you know, there's a lot of Pokemon that absolutely deserve Megas, so if there's a time for those new Megas to happen, it would be in the remakes for the region that they were introduced in. So in a way, it was kind of a now or never type situation, and because it seems like they didn't do it now, it looks like there's not going to be an ever. Essentially, what I mean by that is just the fact that if there really are no Mega Evolutions as a gimmick in this game, that means that there's probably going to be no gimmick in this game, making this the most plain battle system that we've had since Pokemon Black and White. Now, your boy has more or less been around since Gen 1, so as an old timer, I can comfortably say that that's not really all that big of a deal to me. When going into a brand new Pokemon game, I'm not playing because I want to try out the new gimmick, that's just a small part of it. I want to play Pokemon for Pokemon. I'm trying to catch them, raise them, battle them. If there's a gimmick to use to make them stronger, cool, maybe I'll use it in a dire situation, whatever, awesome. But for the most part, I like to rely on the power that me and that Pokemon work to build up together, you know what I'm saying? Mega Evolution, Z-moves, and Gigantamaxing are all very awesome power buffs to have. That's awesome in a very dire situation during a battle. But it's always nice to know that I actually beat that gym leader, or that Elite Four member, or that champion with my own raw power that I built up from day one. Yes, it was quite the movie level spectacle to Dynamax or Gigantamax at the same time as your opponent, so you had two colossal Pokemon on the field duking it out. However, the idea that a much smaller Pokemon, a regular sized Pokemon taking on a city sized Pokemon by itself, frankly that's a lot more epic to me. I guess the long and short of it is, I can live without it. However, that's just the thing right there, isn't it? That's just my opinion. Specifically the opinion of somebody who's played longer without gimmicks than with. So now we're gonna go ahead and look at it from the other side. What about people that have grown up on Pokemon with gimmicks included, starting from 6th gen? Because I'm sure that a lot of us 90 kids would absolutely hate to admit it, but we have to remember, people grew up in the 2000s and the late 2000s, and they didn't get into Pokemon until maybe late 2010s. So let's run with the assumption that somebody's going into these next couple of games, and they started with Pokemon X and Y. So they've had gimmicks since day one. Mega Evos right into Z moves, and Z moves right into Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. And maybe, just maybe, they went back and played the other ones, but let's just assume for now that they didn't. Now let's think about this for a second. The only game that they've had that didn't have a weird gimmick, and this is still on the iffy side, is Pokemon Let's Go. And I'm sure that by now all of us are more than fully aware of how the general public feels about that game. Long story short, it's kind of hard to argue that it's probably considered one of the worst recent entries in modern Pokemon. If you ask somebody why they probably feel that way, they'll most likely tell you it's because the only real thing that was new about that game was the awkward way of catching Pokemon that resembled Pokemon Go. It was considered very plain in the eyes of a lot of people because it didn't really do much new. And people like new, whether that happens to be good or bad, at least you tried something. So now we look at Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and think, okay, well at the very least this already has way more to offer than Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee ever did. However, just saying, based on the information we have, the battles will be as regular as ever. Hey, maybe I'm wrong about it. Maybe you're a brand new fan that got into Pokemon in 6th gen and you're totally fine with the idea of playing a game with absolutely no gimmicks necessary. Alright, cool. I'm just trying to see things from all angles here. After all, a lot of us do agree that Pokemon has been stale for a very long time, and the best changes that they've probably added were probably the gimmicks. I mean, hell, even Pokemon Legends has its own gimmick in the battle system. But hey, whatever. That's just my little theory on things. I could be completely wrong about it, you tell me. Moving along here, the next thing that came to mind is actually the question of, are we going to see the mechanic again? Shut your mouth, I'm not talking about Pokemon Go. I swear to God, if you bring it up again, I'm gonna strangle you. Think about it this way, I think it was the director that said that when they introduced the mechanic in Pokemon Oras, they literally said that they had to create an entirely new universe so that the two don't coincide with the original games. So bringing that up, there's two things that come to mind. One, if that's truly the case, that means that the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl that we're experiencing is an equivalent but not the same as the original Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, meaning this is also an alternate universe of what we knew originally. 2. You went out of your way to write an entirely separate storyline, apparently, just to make your mechanic work logically in this world. Or at the very least, you called it an alternate storyline, which we are now most likely following. So now all this happens, and now I'm thinking, so what? We just don't have the mechanic and it just doesn't happen here just because? Okay, very interesting, guys. Again, not clamoring for it, but this is a situation in which the mechanic would work perfectly. But if we're not gonna see it here, what are the chances of seeing it down the line? I'm sure that a lot of you feel the same way as me. Yeah, we don't need it for every single game. However, in games where it would work, I would love to see it again. I just want the right setting. The one thing is though, we have to kind of pay attention to who we're asking for this though. Right now we're talking about Game Freak and Nintendo, two companies that absolutely hate looking back on anything. The primary time that they like to look back on things is when it was an absolute massive failure. That's just their way of making sure that they never do something like that again, because they don't like failure. And then you look at the Pokemon series and we're like, hey, we kind of like this thing, what if you guys brought it back? Nope, sorry kid, we're gonna move on to bigger and better, and we're gonna do what we want, not exactly what you want. Hopefully you like it though. Now, as infuriating as that mindset is, I have to give it to them, it kinda works. There's a very good reason as to why we keep diving headfirst into these Pokemon games that we know aren't gonna be exactly what we want. Because we get to try something new. But I digress. Long story short, Mega Evolution could possibly now just be considered something of the past that they don't think is worth looking back on. They used it for 4 entire games, 2 of which didn't even really need it. So for them, they're probably sitting there thinking, do we really need to do that again? So for now, it might just be a retired mechanic. Which is tragic, but hey, sometimes it just is what it is. And so that of course leads me into yet another thought process. This kind of plays into if the game is really exactly as it was before. Are the battles going to be exactly the same as they were when we first played Diamond and Pearl, but just enhanced? We already know that we're going to have most of the same exact region that we had before, meaning that we're going to be battling the exact same trainers and the exact same gym leaders, as well as the same Elite Four champion, of course, as well as Team Galactic and Cyrus. Back in the day, when it came to the more important battles, or if you want to call them quote-unquote boss battles, it was usually the same type of situation. Their trump card would usually be a Pokemon that's at least 2 to 3 levels higher than the rest of the team to kind of throw you off. I mean, I'm sure that was the idea at least, but I'm sure that none of us were getting tripped up by that. Come on now, bro. Whatever the case may be, comparing that final card to the final card of having a Pokemon that's 2 levels higher, as well as having a power boost from Mega Evolution, it's not really much of a contest to see which one is more of a challenge now, is it? Adding that mechanic added a whole new layer of fear. Especially back in Oraz, when they had to remake all of the gym leaders' teams and things like that to rework in Pokemon that would have Mega Evolution that would also fit nicely on their team. So you had no idea who you were going up against half the time. Honestly, it was a hell of a time. Same situation applies to Z moves and Dynamaxing. You never knew when that totem Pokemon was going to whip out that Z move, and if it did, you had no idea how big the buffs it was going to get. Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing was a little less scary, but I'll say it like this, I got washed a couple of times in my last Nuzlocke, so that's all I'm gonna say about that. So we've looked at every angle that might make it look bad that we don't have the mechanic in these upcoming games, but if we don't have it, are we better off without it? Well, why don't we look at a couple of factors here. Like I said earlier, the last time that we had plain basic Pokemon battles was back in Pokemon Let's Go, which was considered one of the weakest entries recently. However though, a lot of people's problems seem to stem mostly with the mechanic of catching Pokemon and not being able to battle wild Pokemon normally. Yes, I'll give it to you, that was definitely the easiest game to shiny hunt in and it made it kind of bearable. Fine, whatever. But I wasn't able to train my Pokemon the way that I wanted to. I don't want to have to catch a million frickin' Machops before I level up 5 times. That's ridiculous! And even taking away the mechanic of being able to grind normally didn't even really add to the challenge, because if we did grind, all we did was get so much candy that we could overpower any Pokemon on our team whenever we wanted. I digress yet again. Point is, unlike Pokemon Let's Go, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is through and through back to form with just fighting and catching wild Pokemon. And we've been playing for this long because that's simply the name of the game, so I guess it is what it is on that front. Now here's my main thought, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys are gonna roll your eyes right now after I say this, but please hear me out for a second. This might just be me crossing fingers and toes real heavy, but there's a good chance that they may feel that we may not need it because the challenge may already be in there. You better roll your eyes back into place right now before I pick you up by the head and shake it around like a gumball machine. Listen. Now it is very easy to doubt this because this is Game Freak we're talking about. Like we've said numerous times before, in probably just the last couple videos alone, they will accommodate for the newer players first. Fair enough, easy argument. But come on guys, think about it for a second. They know damn well who's picking up 4th gen remakes. Look at the way that they advertised it. I have no doubt in my mind that they've at least considered the idea that a lot of us won't be too happy if we're going through the exact same game that we played well over a decade ago. Sure, we have new upgraded mechanics when it comes to dressing our trainers and going to the underground dens or whatever, and the Pokeball seals coming back? Bro, they did not need to do that at all, but they did because they knew that we loved it back in 4th gen. So yeah, they know full and well who's going to be playing these games upcoming November. And we won't know until we know. But maybe, just maybe, they've upped the difficulty just enough to make it fair for the new players, good enough for the returning players, and maybe just enough so that nobody has to rely on any kind of gimmicks when it comes to this game. It's absolutely a long shot with that thought process, trust me, I know. But it is not impossible. Going forward with the assumption that they've actually implemented the correct difficulty for everybody to enjoy, it may not be all that ridiculous to believe that these remakes right here might just be the games that teach the newer folks going forward that gimmicks aren't all that make up a Pokemon game. I feel like it's gonna be really refreshing to go into that union room, battle against a bunch of my friends, and battle with just simply the power of the Pokemon that I've built up throughout my journey without having to rely on a mechanic or a gimmick. Believe it or not, man, it's not always about having some kind of clutch. It's also going to be refreshing going into these battles and not having to worry about which Pokemon on their team is going to have the mechanic that I should be worried about. Is this Pokemon gonna Mega Evolve? Is this one gonna Z-Move? Is this one gonna Dynamax or Gigantamax? I have no clue, but maybe, just maybe, that's not something that I'm gonna have to worry about for at least another year. But I mean, that's actually under the assumption that Pokemon Legends doesn't pull some BS, but that's a conversation for another day. So that just about wraps up my question as to, are we better off without the mechanic? So, how are we feeling about it now? Do we feel like it's necessary to have this mechanic in these remakes to really actually make it better? If you asked me a couple months ago, I would have immediately said yes, but now that we've talked a lot about it, I'm kind of on the fence now. On one hand, I'm thinking, no, you don't really need to force a mechanic just to make a game good. If you can make it fun and good all on its own like you did with the games before mechanics, then great, cool, awesome, that's all we really wanted to begin with. On the other hand though, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I don't think that adding Mega Evolutions would do anything but help the game. I'm sorry I sound like a broken record, but I'm just saying, it's that perfect little spice that does nothing but help the game. I just don't see why not. Under usual circumstances, it would be a case of, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But right now, it's kind of a weird case of, we don't want it to break, so we're just not gonna use it. We're just gonna set it up on this shelf to preserve it, and it could just collect dust in there. So, yeah, whatever guys, just do what you want. Not that you're not gonna do that anyway, because obviously you're gonna do that anyway, but some new megas? Man, that could take this game some places you probably didn't even realize it could go. At the end of the day, whether or not we get it, we're gonna play the hell out of this game, and perfect is simply just a concept, and even if you think one thing may make another thing perfect, a lot of the time we don't get that, and that's just how it is sometimes. Now, if you want to get my overall final true ending thoughts here, you may want to sock me, but I still don't think it's too late to announce Mega Evolutions, even if it's not in some big grand way. Sure, maybe at some point during October, maybe they will drop a little trailer showcasing, oh, look at that, you're gonna get rocked by Cynthia's Mega Garchomp. How you feel about that? And we'd be like, oh, sick, alright, awesome, we kinda knew it, but we kinda didn't. We had no idea what to expect. We were completely lying. Or hell, maybe it'll be one of those rare times in this gaming generation where we get the game in our hands and then we discover things. Who knows, man? Who knows? I kinda doubt that one though. I kinda rolled my eyes at that one. Can't even lie to you, Chief. But whatever, you've heard this old timer's thoughts on things. I want to hear the voices of you guys who are also old timers like me that have been here from the get-go, and the newcomers that have come in 6th gen and afterwards that have only played the Pokemon games that involve gimmicks. Tell me everything you guys think about this situation here. Do you guys think the games would be better if we had them, or do you think it would be better if we didn't and we'd be perfectly fine without the mechanics? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, because you know that I am always down there with y'all. Never doubt that, please. But with that, it do appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this one. And with that, I'm outro. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I will see you all next time. Bye!